Hello from Nana Lodge. It's time for another episode of From a Cookbook. Today's cookbook, number 141, is Charleston Grill at Charleston Place. It was written by a chef named Bob Waggoner, and I actually was there many years ago and got him to autograph it for me, so this is cool. As I was flipping through the cookbook, I thought, this is kind of a cool, cozy winter day, and what do I want to do? Well, I had some grits that I bought in the Carolinas maybe 2 years ago. They've just been kind of hanging around the house wondering what to do with them and where to put them and how to use them. So we're going to use them in a recipe out of this cookbook called Baked Stone Ground Grits with sun-dried tomatoes and goat cheese. It also allows me to take advantage of these sun-dried tomatoes, which came from the garden. I had lots of them left over, and so I put some in the dehydrator, and we have them in the bag. I've kept them in the freezer, actually, so they're thawed, and we're going to use those in this recipe. So it allows me to use a couple things that I have on hand. There's a couple of things that I don't have on hand, and we'll talk through that as we talk through all the ingredients. Here we've got all the ingredients for making this dish. Let's walk through them. I'll talk about where things are a little bit different than the recipe in Bob's book, because that's what I have and how we're going to accommodate that. And then we'll start putting it all together. So, unsalted butter, chicken stock. This is what I had on hand. It's chicken broth by Swanson's. It happens to be reduced sodium. You can use it or not. Of course, our grits. A little bit of heavy cream makes the dish nice and rich. If you don't have cream, milk will do just fine. It just won't be quite as rich. We've got a little bit of fresh thyme I picked from the garden, and we're going to garnish with some fresh chives. We've also got goat cheese. I just happened to buy it at Costco, the Kirkland brand. It's great goat cheese, easy to do. Our sun-dried tomatoes, salt and pepper, and then finally garlic. His recipe calls for chopped fresh garlic. I honestly don't have any right now, but I do have this jar of roasted garlic that I keep in the fridge. I roast the garlic in bulk and then just put it in the fridge and keep it there for a month or two. It's great. So we're going to use that in place of the chopped garlic. Let's walk through the recipe. Okay, we've got everything prepped and ready to go. Everything's been measured out according to the recipe. We got the chicken stock, the butter. These are the grits. These are stone ground grits, and it's hard probably to see from the camera there, but these are pretty thick, pretty big. Stone ground, they grind it between two stones, and it doesn't get near as fine as your typical cornmeal, the Quaker stuff that comes in the container. But don't worry if you don't have stone ground grits. Don't go rushing off to some website and try and buy them, unless you want to. You can use cornmeal. It just will cook more quickly, and you probably won't need all of this liquid. This is a slow cooking process. Sort of the difference between cooking regular oatmeal and steel cut oatmeal, right? It's just a longer cooking process. The goat cheese we've crumbled up. I did not push it into the cup. I just crumbled it into the cup and measured it. I've chopped the thyme. The roasted garlic, you can see there. I've got just whole cloves. We're going to stir that in and let it break up as we're cooking the grits, no problem. Salt, pepper. I've got the chives for garnish. And then the sun-dried tomatoes I chopped up. If your sun-dried tomatoes come in a jar that have oil in them, they're going to be nice and soft and easy to cut. If you're buying a dried sun-dried tomato and it's not packed in any liquid, you might want to just soak those for a little while, maybe 10 or 15 minutes in some nice hot water, and they'll come right back and be easy to dice up for you. So let's get to cooking. I'm going to pour the chicken stock into the pan. And add the butter. Then we'll bring that to a boil and add the grits. In go the grits. Just put those in, stir them around. Seems like a little bit of grits for a lot of liquid, but don't worry. They will soak it all up. No problem. I've reduced the heat now to about medium because I just want it on just a little bit of a boil, just a low simmer. And we're going to let that bubble and boil for about 15 minutes, stirring it every once in a while, and then come back and we'll start to add a little bit of the cream. We're going to add about half a cup of the milk, the cream. Let that cook and come back to a boil. Give it about 10 minutes or so and add just a little more cream. These are going to be some rich, yummy grits. adding in another half cup of cream, and I think that's probably going to be all of it. I'm probably not going to use all the cream I measured out. Let that come back to a boil until it's starting to thicken up. Starting to get thick as those bubbles are getting pretty thick, and it's starting to spit out of the pan, so be careful. It can get a little hot, but we're getting really close to having those grits nicely cooked. You can see these grits are getting nice and thick now. Just a little bit of cream left to blend in. They're getting really nice and thick. At this point, I'm going to add in the salt and the pepper. Give that a good stir, as well as the garlic. We'll let the garlic start to flavor this a little bit. And we'll stir in the sun-dried tomatoes. And the fresh thyme. Okay, our grits are all cooked and they're nice. We've got everything in there except the chives and the goat cheese. I'm going to pour this into an oven-proof container that'll also double as our serving dish. And I'm going to sprinkle the cheese on the top. The chives will go on after we're done cooking. Then it's going to go in the oven for about 7 or 8 minutes until the cheese is melted. And then you can let it get a little golden brown if you like it that way, or you can just pull it out a little earlier than that if you want creamy white goat cheese. Sprinkle the goat cheese on the top, all over. Now we're ready to put it in the oven. All right, our stone ground grits with sun-dried tomatoes and goat cheese just came out of the oven. This is pretty hot. I'm gonna garnish it with the chives. I like to cut the chives in what we call, whoops, drop that one in there, batons. They're about a 1/2 inch long, and I like it because it adds just a nice bite of that light onion flavor, but you can cut them any way you want. Isn't that pretty? Just like that. Wow, it's so festive. This would actually be a really yummy thing over the holidays. So thanks for tuning in to Cooking in at 9 o'clock and this episode from a cookbook with Bob Waggoner's Charleston Grill at Charleston Place. Enjoy.